Among global economists, they're known as the BRIC countries, B-R-I-C, as in Brazil, Russia, India, and China. Their economies are expanding fast, and they might be the global superpowers of the future. As they grow, so do their film industries. Today we take a peek at Brazil and Russia through the lenses of two filmmakers. First, Brazil. Writer-director José Padilha's latest movie, Elite Squad: The Enemy Within, is a crime thriller set in Rio de Janeiro. The movie deals with drug gangs in the slums and the corrupt cops who police them. Though the film declares itself to be a work of fiction, Padilha says this movie and its predecessor, Elite Squad, both are rooted in reality.
Pode até parecer clichê de filme americano, mas é na hora da morte que a gente entende a vida. Eu dei muita porrada em viciado, esculachei muito policial corrupto, mandei monte de vagabundo pra vala. Mas não foi nada pessoal.
Elite Squad: The Enemy Within is Brazil's highest-grossing film. It even beat Avatar. The original Elite Squad did well too, but writer-director Padilha says it would have done better had it not been pirated before its release. John Horn stepped out of his role as my co-banterer to talk with writer-director Padilha about these films.
What were the circumstances when you made the first film? How did it get out? And what did you do to protect the second film from that kind of piracy?
Right. In Latin America, it belonged to Universal. And outside of Latin America, it belonged to the Weinstein Company. And so when I was cutting the film, I had to send, DVDs, subtitled DVDs to Universal and to the Weinstein Company. And one of those DVDs was stolen. And so I remember up to today, I was in New York. I got a call from a policeman, of all people, who said to me in Rio, right? He was in Rio. He said to me, the movie is out. Everybody loves it. It's a frenzy. Everybody's buying and selling DVDs. Isn't that great? And I go like, yeah, but not really, So it was like a crazy thing because as a director, I had made a movie that leaked in one DVD and that 11 million people saw because it leaked 2 months before it opened in the theaters. So it's a gigantic success. But on the other hand, we're not going to make our money back. And so it was sort of mixed feeling, but I have to say I'm totally against piracy. Piracy is unfair competition. It's people who do not pay taxes. Piracy is a bad thing. Sometimes I hear people defending piracy. Well, there's no defense for piracy, really. Now, the second movie, we knew everybody was going to go after that movie. Every pirate in Brazil wanted to get it. So we just did everything on film. There was no digital master of the film. So when we opened the movie in Brazil, we opened it only in 35 millimeter prints. And it was a little crazy because everything in this movie was independent. There was no distribution company. There was no Universal, no Weinstein Company, nobody. We self-financed the movie. We went to banks. We got loans. It was a $7 million budget to shoot that film, which is a big budget in Brazil. And then we also financed the distribution of the movie, which was another $3 to $4 million. And we actually distributed the movie from my garage. We had a bunch of computers in my garage, people that we hired to do the work of booking the movie. And we called one old distributor in Brazil who was out of the business, but he had released like 1,000 movies. And we said to him, Marco Aurelio is his name, how about releasing one more? And he fell in love with the movie. He made a great strategy for the movie. We opened it to 700 screens. And we grossed $70 million in Brazil alone.
70 million US or local?
70 million US out of a garage. So it's something that it's been fantastic because it really taught me the value of content. People think, you need a lot of marketing. You need to be a studio to put a movie out and be... Well, it's not really true. Sometimes the movie leaks out of a DVD and becomes everybody watches it. Sometimes you can do it without. If you have the story that matters for the audience, the movie is going to go.
Did you distribute it yourself out of fear of piracy, or was that more of a business decision separate from the leaked DVD on the first film?
Not because of piracy. It was a business decision. It was also the idea that we wanted to fully control the process artistically, the release date. It was a little bit nightmarish to have a movie, the first one, that belonged to two distribution companies in different territories with different ideas, even towards the content of the movie, and conflicting notes, and you know what I'm. So we just decided, let's do everything ourselves. Let's try to fundraise this movie with sponsors and with banks, and we raised this $7 million to put the movie out, and we took the risk. Listen, if this had not worked, I would be bankrupt. That's it. So would be my partner, Marcos. We just decided to go for it. Let's go. We believe in this film. We think we know what we're doing. Everybody wants to see this story completed. It was a good thing because the talent was also partners in the movie. Braulio, the writer, that co-wrote with me, who also wrote City of Gods, he had shares of the film. Wagner, the actor, Danny, the editor. Everyone had a share cut of the movie. And it was good because everybody was working together, knowing that if this works, we are all going to make money back out of our art. Because we self-distributed it, there was no distribution fee. Right? So it was a good experience of the people who were making the content were owning the film.
If you're just joining us, you're listening to The Business. Today, John Horn is talking with Brazilian filmmaker Jose Padilha, who independently made and distributed Brazil's highest-grossing film, Elite Squad: The Enemy Within. Now he's preparing to make his first Hollywood movie, the reboot of Robocop.
You talk about controlling content and about the content creators owning the film and about kind of streamlining the process. You are in discussions right now about making a big studio film, a remake of Robocop with MGM. I suspect you realize it will be a very different process?
Of course. Listen, here's the thing. In a studio movie, not only Robocop that we're going to be making with MGM, but any studio movie, the studio is running the risk. It's putting up the money. So it's fair that the studio controls the inflow of money from the sales and everything. Totally correct. Whomever is running the risk should have the revenue. The problem is that in Brazil, studios don't run risks. They use tax shelter money, and the producers usually run much more risks than the studios. That's why we decided, let's do it ourselves. If we're running the risk, let's run the risk all the way, right? In a studio movie like Robocop, even though I understand what you're saying, my experience has been very good. I'm having creative liberty. I'm working with two great writers. First Josh Zetomer, now Nick Chank, who wrote Gran Torino. MGM is giving me a lot of freedom to develop the screenplay that I want to do. Robocop is sort of like, Bus 174 and Elite Squad and The Enemy Within are social analysis of a certain time and place, right? Robocop is a universal concept. The idea that a corporation is going to take up a man and physically, literally transform him into a product that can be sold. It's a metaphor for all societies in which, there are corporations. Furthermore, the idea that drones will be fighting wars for us. And so you may have a country that's very rich that's going to war with drones, and the poor country is fighting with their own people. Like, this is not sci-fi anymore. This is reality in 20 years, 30 years. And so all those ideas are at the core of Robocop. And this is what draws me towards this project.
Had your career been pointing toward making a studio film? Is it something you aspired to? Is it that people saw the Elite Squad movies and called you? Is this part of your ambition?
Listen, a lot of great movies are made in the studio system. That's the first thing I have to say. You hear, and so do I, people say, oh, that's the studio movie, as if that would dismiss the film. But it's not true. The Godfather is a studio film. Goodfellas. There's so many studio films that are fantastic. 2001, Stanley Kubrick's movies are studio films. And I love Stanley Kubrick. So, a studio gives you, as a filmmaker, a lot of resources, right? And I feel that if you are true to your project, and if you are engaged in a studio movie, not because it's a studio movie, but it's because a project you love in your heart. Robocop is very interesting to me. But the thing is, you cannot make a film like Robocop without having access to a lot of technological things, CGIs, visual effects, and those things can only be afforded by a studio. So, therefore, a studio movie.
Elite Squad, both 1 and 2 and Bus 174, are unsettling movies. As you say, they prompt debate. They're not movies that you come out of the theater happy about. I mean, they're very disturbing. They're very problematic films. I'm just wondering if you think there is room for that within Hollywood, that you can make a movie, a big budget movie that is unsettling, that people will argue about and debate about in the lobby of the theater. That doesn't seem the typical show business model right now.
Right. Well, we'll soon see. I will find out together with you as this process progresses. We'll know. Here's the thing. I think that the audiences are not only looking for movies that have like a character you can root for, or emotional relations between characters that are interesting. And of course, those are important parts of movies. But I do feel that movies can have intellectual meaning. I mean, I think it is fulfilling for an audience to look at a movie and have ideas and emotions out of films. I think the language of film is rich enough. It's amazingly rich. It can do all of this at the same time. If you want to add a dimension to film, I rather add an intellectual dimension than make my movies in 3D.
The 3D of thinking, not of photography. Jose Padilha is the filmmaker behind Elite Squad and Elite Squad: The Enemy Within. Thank you, Jose.
Yeah, it's a pleasure being here.
Elite Squad: The Enemy Within is now out on DVD. Coming up after